We're live.
Hi.
Hi, hi, ladies.
Hi, Beth. How are you?
Welcome to Women Investor Wednesday.
Thank you so much for having us. It's
I'm
an
so
honor.
excited. So you guys are my first duo.
Double the trouble, double the fun.
Double the trouble and double the fun.
Double lessons.
Well, I'm so excited because for A, you're our first duo. B, you're dear friends of mine, right? And I just can't wait for you guys to share your story with the audience. So, you know how Women Investor Wednesday came about. A few years ago, I learned that of all of the investors in commercial real estate, only 3% are women. And I thought that was deplorable. So we created our conference, which is the Women's Commercial Real Estate Summit, which you all have attended. And every time I meet someone a woman that's investing in real estate, I say, you either need to come to the summit, speak at the summit, or speak at our Women Investor Wednesdays. So I'm so glad that you guys are here because I would love for you to share your story, how you youngins, you might be the youngest people I've had on Women Investor Wednesdays. So, but we have a lot of young women in the audience who are starting to invest, aspire to invest. So I think your story is very important and I want you to share your story. So Katrina Garcia, Karina Garcia, by the way, they're sisters and they're not twins.
Not twins.
From Game Properties in Miami, Florida. So ladies, share your story. Whichever of you want to start and jump in. And they do answer each other. They do speak for each other often.
So Game Properties is a family business started by my dad, who started investing in real estate in the 70s. And Karina and I both grew up in Miami. We grew up around real estate. My dad was in both commercial. He did a little bit of residential and development. And so we grew up in this business all our lives. We went to the University of Miami and we studied business there, and then we did our MBA there as well. I got started working full-time in the business in 2010, and Karina started in
2012.
Yes. And basically, we work on our family's portfolio of properties. We handle all our acquisitions, leasing, and property management.
Our portfolio, it's South Florida only. So we're based in Miami, like Beth said. We have 18 properties that consist of single tenant properties to the largest neighborhood center being almost 70,000 square feet. So it is diverse in terms of tenants. Most of our tenants are local tenants, even though we do have national tenants, but we love dealing with local tenants. And yeah, Katrina and I have been managing that now full-time since 2012, but so a little over 10 years already.
Crazy. Okay, so many things to unpack there. Okay, so all retail.
Yes,
yes,
for the most part.
Some office, right?
We have some small office. We have farmland, but that's like separate. But mostly retail is what I say is our niche.
And you used to have some industrial, right?
Yes. And we sold industrial and we sold the shopping centers that were over 100,000 square feet because it just became for us too management intense since we were doing all of the property management ourselves.
And there's the funny story about the industrial is you guys went to your dad and said, we should sell this, right? And he was like, right. And you were the smart ones, right? Right?
Yeah, that was some of the properties that we decided to sell. And that was part of when we started investing in real estate, Katrina and I, it was because we had told my father of some of these properties that we wanted to sell, either because industrial was something we particularly didn't know much about and it wasn't what we wanted to focus on. We sold some of the larger shopping centers because, like I mentioned, it was too management intense. So when we sold those properties, it was like, what do we do with this money now? We need to invest it. So prior to probably, I would say 2016, what we mostly spent doing was the property management and the leasing and, finding new tenants, renewing our existing tenants. But now that we sold these properties and we had this cash, my dad's like, you need to acquire properties. So
that became our focus.
That became our main focus.
So
acquiring.
Yeah. So basically we started in 2016 acquiring properties, and since then we've acquired 7 properties, right?
Yeah.
So when that happened and your dad said, well, ladies, you've done the leasing, you've done the property management, you've done the operations. Now it's time for you guys to go do this, go buy deals. Were you scared? Like, did you feel like you had to run everything by him? Did he micromanage? Like, talk about that kind of cutting the umbilical cord from him creating the portfolio. And now here you've gotten the opportunity because of your smart maneuvers selling industrial in 16 was probably a really good idea.
And there were like small warehouses that he used to use for his business. So yeah. But so yes, there was obviously fear. I'll be honest, we're very blessed that my dad has always been my parents, both of them have always been very supportive. Many people in the family business, I feel that's one of the issues, like transitioning from one generation to the next. So he's definitely been supportive in that. But when we started looking for what to buy, we would first analyze the properties ourselves. And when we thought we had a good one, then we'd go to him and be like, look, I saw this property, or a broker brought me this property and I did this research. So the first one we acquired during that time, it was a property actually that I was on a mailer from like Marcus and Millichamp, and it was a broker in the Carolinas. And he doesn't do it anymore. I don't know if he retired actually, but he would send it and it would be like by area. And this was like the Southeast, what properties were available. And I saw it said there was a Wendy's in Miami. And I was like, Wendy's in Miami? So I started trying to, but it didn't have the address. So I immediately sent back hi, can you give me more information about this Wendy's? And I remember it was a Friday and he answered me and they sent me the address. They sent me the OM, and we went that weekend to see it. And I was like, wow, this is a really good one. And that's the first deal we ended up buying.
Wow.
Yeah, that was the first one we bought.
Well, you set yourself up for the future disappointments if you right. Katrina's like, yeah.
In that regard, it was
it doesn't always happen.
It doesn't always happen that easy. But what was good about this one was that, well, you want to say something about it?
No.
Okay. So this property, what we liked about it was the fact that it was in a market with high traffic. It's on 8th Street down here. So it was near University, high traffic area. But the most important thing was that the rent was below market. So that is why the deal particularly made sense to us, was because the rent was below market. And I knew it didn't matter that it was occupied by Wendy's. If Wendy's left, any fast food would take it, and we would get significantly higher rent. They still are there now, so they haven't left, but that was what made the deal so attractive.
And we're long.
Well, how excited were you when you went and said to your dad, we found this, and your dad said, yeah, looks good?
Well, he liked it. The way he does things, which I think, as I'm not a parent, but a suggestion for some people, is that he always asks us first, what do you want to do, or what do you think? He listens to us, then he gives his opinion, and then we see where we line up. But in our regard, he always is you're the one who's going to end up with the property at the end of the day, or end up with that tenant. It's going to be your problem, not mine, because he's basically at this point retired. So he always says you need to be comfortable with it. But this one little tidbit I want to mention about it was that year we ended up buying a few more. One of the properties I bought was from the broker in Miami who had the listing, because this deal, I got it from a broker from Marcus in the Carolinas. I didn't know the Miami broker. Once this broker put us, represented us on the deal with the guy from Miami, is like, I need to know who you are. What are you buying? And we ended up then buying later on a deal from him. So knowing the brokers in the area is so important in getting deals, and something also I highly want to recommend, and definitely helps.
And I think so what percentage from when you first got in the business in 2010 and 12 to today, 2024, what percentage of has your connection base increased from on a percentage basis? From oh you
Can't
so
even measure it because
right, you measure like 1,000, 5,000%. Yeah.
Definitely. And I mean, we really try and focus on networking. My dad would attend ICSC events and he knew a few, brokers who would bring him deals. And it was also another time when things weren't, there wasn't social media platforms and networking on them or anything like that. So it was a little bit more, it was a little bit different, but our network has grown incredibly by networking, and people just know who we are now and they follow us on different platforms, and they ask us about our lives because we like to post about our travel and we like dining out and all of that. So
social media definitely has helped us, but we have found it very important to attend networking events, organize lunches, do different things like that to be able to network with people.
Absolutely. So do you guys partner with anyone?
No,
not yet. We don't in theory, but Miss A's are over here.
Yeah. So I happen to know your father. So speaking of your father and how supportive he is, so your father and I met years ago at a Winn-Dixie auction in Jacksonville. And your dad said, my girls are in college, but when they come out, we're going to connect you. Like he wanted me to, be involved in your life, which it's a blessing for me to be it with, and when we to the audience, we go and have lunches with these wonderful young women and their father. And it's a blessing in my life, but we have tried to partner a few times to no avail. Like one of these days but they've been great properties, but they've had problems.
Yes.
And we're not going to buy properties that are not good properties to buy, right?
Especially at the returns that these properties are being sold at.
Exactly, because we live in the hot area of South Florida, and they're crazy, the asking prices. But we keep trying. Our friend Cara Morabito has a question. She wants to know if you guys studied real estate at UM.
No.
We studied real estate law in the class.
Part of the MBA program, but I did a 1-year just business administration, and so did she. Right after I graduated, they changed the real estate program, but when I looked to apply to it, it was very focused on architecture.
Right.
And that wasn't really what we were focused, wasn't going to help us at the time. The program now, I've seen it and it is structured differently and it looks incredible. And I do know a few people that have done it, but back then it wasn't really
real estate focused the way
what we would need.
Yeah, when I first got involved with Florida State real estate, it was all about appraisal. And I said, we need to change this. Not everyone can graduate with go be an appraiser.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So how is it to buy today?
Very difficult, but we look at a lot of deals and we really try to, drive the properties, underwrite it, look at the numbers, and put out offers. Especially at the end of the year in December, we did put out a few offers.
Yeah.
Which, it had slowed down a bit. January has been a little bit slow as well for us, but we see it picking up again, and we've been getting more emails and brokers reaching out with different opportunities, and we're happy to look at any opportunity that they put in front of us, and if it fits our criteria, we're putting out an LOI and trying to get the deal done to the finish line.
So when you say we put in a lot of offers, is that 10, 20, 5, 50?
We were between, I would say
more than 10 we did in the last few months.
More than 10. Yeah.
More than 10 in the last 2 months.
In the last, since probably October to December.
Yeah.
how many offers in 2023?
I don't have a number.
Like 20?
Well, sometimes, more than 20 or probably, but sometimes also like we put in offers and we don't give a formal LOI. Like I'll talk to the broker and be like, look, this is what I'll pay. We'll do these terms. Like I'm not sending, if you talk about offers like that, we've given more, but sending formal LOIs, yeah.
And what are your roles, each of you?
So I handle more of the acquisitions, including all the due diligence, our property liability insurance, our banking relationships. And in regards to property management, I handle some of the things like the permits and inspections and all of that.
So then I handle more like negotiating existing leases, new leases, and the tenant relationships for the most part.
So Katrina, you do the loans.
Yeah, so I work on like private lending with a mortgage broker who brings us different deals, mostly in South Florida, investment opportunities, whether they're residential investment properties or commercial. We take a look at those and see where there's opportunities in the market for that as well.
So that's an alternative investing. I'm going to come back around to that. But when you guys are buying a deal, do you always put a loan on it? If you buy a deal, or do you buy cash and then put the loan on it?
Yes.
Later.
For the most part, it would depend on the size of the deal. So if we're talking about, a ground lease, single tenant property, that would, likely be a cash offer. For a larger shopping center, if we're talking about 50,000 to 100,000 square foot shopping center, there would be, traditional bank financing that we would seek in that sense.
And do you do that? Are you the person that's handling that lender relationship and trying to get term sheets from those lenders?
Yes.
How did that start? Like, is that because and we have so many comments that I have got to get to, but I would tell you, most people are comfortable leasing. Most people are comfortable finding the deals. Most people are comfortable negotiating the PSAs and underwriting, and even underwriting. But a lot of the ladies in my audience start freaking out when they have to call lenders and start working on a loan to buy the property. That's what I think is where we need the most education in our circle. So how did you know how to do it? Did you work on it with your dad? Like, how did you? Yeah.
So I definitely did work on it with my dad. When I started working, he would just have meetings with bankers, and I would just sit there and attend the meeting with him and just listen, and he would introduce me. So some of the relationships that I do have currently are because he made the initial introduction. But throughout our network, we've met people along the way. One of Karina's very good friends from her MBA class works at TD Bank, and we started banking with them. One approach is, try and bring the bank a deposit relationship. And
before you need.
So you bring them a deposit relationship. And once you've established yourself as a customer at the bank, then you want to find out who's the person who handles the commercial side. And one thing is, you want to understand what their capability is in regards to like loan size. Because sometimes if you need a loan, let's say that's between, $1 million to $3 million, it might be one person versus if you're looking for a loan that's between 5 and 10 million. So you want to make sure that the person who you're talking to has the capability of the loan size that you would be seeking.
Yeah. And it's just, when I first started, I really knew nothing about loans. I knew I could do everything else, but I didn't. I really, that was where I needed to work. And I just would meet with the lending officers and I would just say, I don't know what that means. What is that? Amortizing? What is that? And they're looking at me like, you're buying a $25 million shopping center. How do you not know what amortize? I go, well, I know the term. What is it like? Spell it out for me.
Yeah. And one thing is, I mean, just start to feel comfortable with like a term sheet. You know, obviously a term sheet is different than an LOI, but if you're a broker and you're used to submitting LOIs, you know, just get familiar with a term sheet and talk to someone and look up what the, you know, what the different definitions are and start understanding it. But, you know, it's just familiarize yourself and don't be scared to ask the questions if you don't know.
So we've got people, someone said, I'm popping in from the car, listening from Southern California. Awesome. So Angela Marie Reinhardt asks, what is your criteria for retail acquisitions?
So overall, we're looking for properties in Florida. Specifically, if there's management responsibilities, we're focusing on South Florida, so Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach County. We're looking.
If there's no landlord responsibility, you know, for like net lease properties, we look anywhere in the state of Florida. We're looking for single tenant properties. We're also looking for shopping centers, but we wouldn't want anything at this point. I would say probably over 50,000 square feet. We'd want below that. Price point, it just, and the cap rates, like it just depends, you know, if it's single tenant or if it's
I happen to be selling two right now.
Some very nice properties, I know.
And I hear the broker sent them to you.
Yes. multiple
They're
brokers.
doing a good job reaching out to, so
multiple brokers, not the listing brokers, are sending them to you.
Well, the listing broker, one of them also sent it to us, and we actually bought a Pollo Tropical from one of them.
Yes.
So,
but one thing is, we have our acquisition criteria written down. So when someone asks us for our acquisition criteria, I say, send me an email and I can respond and send that to you. And so it's a little bit of an overview. And one thing that I always say is I'll provide feedback. So if you send us a property and for whatever reason we don't like it, I try and provide feedback so you get to know us a little better. And that way, you know,
in the future, you know what we're looking for and you don't waste your time or our time. But I think that's really important. Like, same thing happens to you. We get calls all the time at my office, on my cell phone, etc. You know, are you looking to sell? And right now, at least, we say, we're not selling any properties. We're looking to buy. And then I always say, if you email me, I'll send you my acquisition criteria, because these brokers, they're seeing deals all day. And whether it's their listing or if, you know, they would represent us on another listing, we want them to bring us deals. So I think when they do finally bring us a deal, it's so important to answer them instead of just looking at it and being like, oh, I don't care for that, or not my market. And sometimes people send me deals that on my criteria, I say, I don't want this, this, and this, and they send it to me. And I'm kind of just like, and then I just nice, you know, you gotta be nice to say, oh, you know, try to follow more the criteria, but it's because of this and this. So very important to give people feedback so that they can continue sending you properties and hopefully do some deals.
Yeah. Have you ever bought without a broker, like a, you know, off market, where you've identified the owner and called them?
I did this, yes.
Again and again and again.
So one of the properties, bought 2 buildings in 2022, and they were buildings that were adjacent to where our old office building was in Coral Gables. And that was just, I was renewing my tenant's lease actually, and online I see that my neighbor's leasing the location. And I thought, that's so weird. He owns the building. Why? And it's his retail store, his business is there. That's so weird. So I call them and I'm like, hi, I see you're leasing the space. Would you be interested in like selling the building? And she was like, I think he might be, I'll call you back. And he called me back. And in, I would say 3 or 4 hours, we negotiated a price. And the only, so he did say, I own 2 buildings, they're side by side, you need to buy both of them. However, that's what I wanted because it was my building, another building, and where the one I had called about. So I obviously wanted the one in between. So I was like, that's not a problem. So that's one of those cold calling stories that I got extremely lucky in. It doesn't normally happen at the first time you call your neighbor. They're going to sell you the property, but we did buy those 2 buildings and we're very happy with them. But this year I started the year, and one of the things I already did was near another property, I started calling up some property owners trying to get in contact with the right property owners, because down here, everywhere, but all these properties are owned by trust, and they're, kids are just collecting checks. They're not managing the properties. So it's so hard to get in touch with the actual person who would be willing to sell. So, started the year by calling people and just, telling them I'm interested in buying. If you do consider, please think of me, or staying top of mind. That's what it comes down to.
And so I find that until I call, like I have 6 deals that I want to buy. Yeah. And if this was a cold calling LinkedIn Live, I could literally call all 6 and they would literally pick up the phone and go, no, Beth, we're not ready to sell yet. Until they can connect you with what you want, you don't. So if you have to keep introducing yourself every time, you're not top of mind, right? Mm-hmm. And but once they pick up and go, ha ha ha, Karina, we still don't want to sell. Now is where it starts. And I've bought 4 deals off market because of that. I mean, the one that I'm investing in currently, 14 years I've been working on this person. 14 years, but I think it's going to be a phenomenal deal. And it's not like I'm not spending 40 hours. It's a 1 call a quarter.
Yeah.
And
I was gonna say, I think people don't realize sometimes real estate's like a long game. It's not about just, finding it right now, buying it today, selling it right now. It's building the long-term connections, knowing the market for a long time. In our case, we hold our properties for a long time. And a lot of people, I think, are just thinking about like today, the present day. They're not thinking about the long-term theme of it.
When I was at the city commission meeting and they announced that they were going to outlaw strip clubs in my town, and I immediately knew of a strip club on an A+ property, I called the next morning, looked up on the tax rolls, who owns the strip club, 87-year-old couple in Jacksonville. I called them. I then it's like a courtship for 2 years. I do not want the strip club to close, because I knew the minute the strip club closes, all of my competition's going to swoop in to call these people. But at the end, they liked me because I had been courting them. I'd flown up and had tea in their living room, like way before anyone knew that the property was potentially available. And I remember I bought it in May, and I went in August to our Florida ICSC, and I had 5 bidders against me after the strip club closed. They all swooped in on this elderly couple, and they ended up picking me because I had been courting them for 2 years. And someone walked up to me and said, I don't know how you got that. We were after that for 2 months. 2 years. 2 years. Okay, a couple more questions. Do you underwrite your own deals, or do you outsource the underwriting?
We do it ourselves, yeah.
And both of you together?
Yeah, because I figure out the rents. Since I figure out like the rents in the market, what I think we can charge, what leases will be able to increase rents, and then she does more of the other financing aspects of it.
But it's okay to outsource it if you're not comfortable with that, or you need the extra help.
Do you do it on Excel or Argus?
Excel.
Yeah. Do you, a question from Nicole Popovich from Tampa, St. Pete. Do you partner or have outside investors?
For now, we have not. Like we said, I know with Beth, we had considered it. And one of the reasons we haven't in the past too is just because my dad grew up doing stuff by himself, always investing by himself, even, not with the family. So we've continued in that way, but for the right deal, we would consider it. And with the right partners, which is the most important thing.
Yes, that's the most important. And then do most of the good deals get snatched up off market before it hits the major platforms like LoopNet or CoStar, or can you still find good deals online?
Sometimes you could still find it online, but from experience, even in properties we've bought or we've been under contract for, the broker would be like, okay, tomorrow the email blast is going out, but I already knew I was under contract for the property.
Not under contract yet,
the contract, the PSA was in the process, but they needed to do it for you
Right.
know, for their
Yeah.
purpose.
I always say with CoStar or LoopNet or all those or Crexi, if it's there and it hasn't sold, smarter, richer people have passed on it. You know,
Sometimes also it's because those sellers are still asking for crazy prices. So it could be both.
Speaking of crazy prices, sometimes how this is a hard game because we think it's worth X.
Yeah.
We don't want to insult by offering a lower price.
I know where you're going.
And then someone else gets it at a lower price than what we would have paid because we didn't have the what to make the crazy offer.
Yes. So this is one of the things that happened to me. And it was one of those learning lessons for people. I had been offered a deal. It was a little over 9 million. And I was like, that's absurd. I did the calculations of what I could rent it at. I had just bought these 2 buildings in the Gables. So I knew what the leasing rates were. And I was like, this deal doesn't make sense. I paid X amount per square foot. This doesn't make sense. And I didn't even, like, I kind of just told the broker, like, oh, that's over what I'm looking for. And I just left it at that. Like 4 months later, it closed, and it closed for a price lower than what I had calculated I would pay for it. It was being offered at 9 million something, and it ended up closing for 6.7 or 6.8. Yeah. And I would have offered somewhere in the low 7s. And it was one of those lessons that, like, I should just trust in my gut that I did my underwriting properly and just offered 2 million below, even though it seems like a ridiculous reduction that based on what they wanted, asking for, I should have just offered my price. So don't be afraid of it. If you trust your numbers and, the analysis that you did, offer what you want to pay. And if they say no, it is what it is. So I've learned that. And after that, for my office building that I purchased last year, I made a ton of offers and I didn't care what the price was. And funny enough, months later, when they finally sold, many of them went for the price I was originally asking for. I ended up with the building I wanted, so it was fine. But I love to look at that. Like when I put offers on deals, I love to see where it actually trades at to see how far off I really was. And that's a really big, like in terms of learning when you're putting in offers, that's really important. I feel like if you don't get the deal you want, follow up later and see, or, when it comes out what the deal closed at, go ahead and really look at it to see how far off it was. And I mean, you can't just go by that because there are crazy buyers out there that just need to put their money somewhere, so they will overpay. But I think it's always interesting. Yeah. Sometimes we're like, oh my God, it was only $50,000 dip. Like, why didn't they tell us, or why? Because sometimes you ask these brokers, like, okay, but the other person, like, where do I need to be? And sometimes they don't really give you more insight. So you don't, at that point, change your LOI. So that's something I think is always interesting and you should be looking at.
I was in the last year, I joined a mastermind for acquisitions, a very, very sharp guy, probably 300 people in the group, and they were buying all kinds of asset classes. I just really want to buy retail, but I just wanted to, I'm a lifelong learner. And I thought that, the people in this room I can learn from, and the facilitator I could learn from. And they really, strongly urged everyone, figure out what you can buy it for and make the offer, because and you can say, look, I don't want to insult you, but this is what I think it's worth. And then get it in there. And many, many times I watched over the 12 months of my participation in this group where sellers would come back around and maybe not go as low as the offer, but came so much lower than the person who made the offer thought they would, because you never know what people's motivations are to sell, or what,
And it's this. Sometimes people all of a sudden feel the pressure to sell because something has changed in that period. So yeah,
and it's not always about what price you're going to offer. It's the overall terms. How fast are you going to close? How long is your due diligence period? The deposit that you're going to put, all of that.
Sometimes we do ask that to the broker. We're like, what's important to them? Is it closing quickly? Is it having a higher deposit? Because, they're afraid. What is the most important thing? And sometimes what we think is the most important thing is not the most important thing. So you just need to ask.
Yeah.
And everything is different for everyone.
That strip club deal that I bought, and then we bought it, we knocked it down, and we built a strip center. So strip club to strip center, and it was, a great deal. Starbucks, Blaze, Select Comfort, Verizon. My partner said, when I was just distraught that now 5 people are having tea in the living room, right? Like, like I had this. He said, what is the most important thing to them? And I said, timing, that once they pick closing fast, because I knew that, because I literally spent 2 years with them. And he said, okay, here's the deal. This is what you need to do. You need to call them up and ask them if we can do the phase 1 on our dime. Can we go on the property and do the phase 1? And do they mind if we, do the survey and the title, so that the title, the survey, the environmental, the most important things, in that we'll do it on our dime. And if they don't pick us, no harm, no foul. He says, okay, what are we going to spend? 20 grand? Like, so that if and when they narrow it down and then they say to us, how fast can you close? We'll be able to say 24 hours. And no one else.
Nobody else can do that.
Yeah.
No, I thought it was the most brilliant thing. And we did that. And we got picked anyway because they liked me. But it certainly helped when, they called back and they said, we'll sell to you, and I said, I can close in 24 hours and they knew we had already done that. No one else, I never heard that before. I thought, this is why partners are so brilliant.
Yeah, that's so genius. But one thing, Katrina, we were talking about this the other day, was how you mentioned like having everyone aligned already.
Oh, yeah. So one really important thing is to just be prepared for the right deal. So you're not going to find the deals immediately. So you just want to be prepared. And whether it is knowing who you're going to use to do your survey, knowing who you're going to use for your environmental, phase 1, your real estate attorney, because as soon as that LOI, is accepted, you need to start working on that purchase and sale agreement.
And not focus on, who do I call? Let me ask people. Let me get a recommendation. You want to have everything lined up for when the deal comes, you're ready to move.
So excellent advice. And, at the summit, everyone that I pay are sponsors. My real estate attorney, my zoning attorney, my engineers. I'm going to be able to, I'm so happy because I'm going to be able to stand up on stage and say, I think we have 18 sponsors, all but 2 of them I pay, which means I use them, and I trust them. And many of them, the guy that did my will and my trust, the guys that did, that are my wealth advisors, my tax advisors, they're all going to be in the room, and I'm going to be able to tell 200 women, this is my CPA that I've had for 20 years. So I'm very excited. That's how we sold out on the sponsors. I think you guys should sponsor, but I do think it's a benefit for women who are just starting out, who don't have these sources, these resources.
Don't know who to call. And not even that, sometimes like once you make these connections, it's really important, like for surveyor, how long do they take? There's some companies that are like, oh, we can turn it around in this many days. And you call another one and it's this many days. So it's just having everything lined up for when we say it's so hard to find a deal, but you don't want to lose a deal because you can't do your survey fast enough, because you don't have a banking relationship, so it's all those things. It's just as important to find the deal as it is to do all the back work for when you do it to run smoothly.
Well, that's so funny, because the next question is, what are the issues you run into during due diligence that have caused you to kill the deal? Well, we could talk about that.
Yeah, we could talk about it a while with you.
We had the deal under contract.
Yeah.
Right. We were spending lots of time and energy and money. You want to share what our problem was? It's shocking. It's shocking that this had happened to us.
It was the exclusives that they had in the restrictive covenants and easements.
And they broke them.
And they broke them.
So
The seller thought it was not a big deal because nobody cared until we buy it and somebody cares.
Right. And that
violation of a lot of things.
and they're like, well, we are we're like, what about the title? The title's not going to come back clean. No, we refied and there was no issue with the title.
Yeah.
So that was one thing where there was clearly, 15 tenants on a property where there were out parcels, where there was just completely lack of respect to exclusives. And we thought we were walking into lawsuit city.
Yeah.
Right.
As one thing, as we like single tenant properties, and it's surprising how many brokers, like even before putting in deals, this and that, like, or sometimes we'll put in an LOI, but I mean, before that continued, we say, this is an out parcel of, a Publix anchor shopping center, a Target, this and that. Are there any exclusives? Is there anything we can't have? They're like, oh, once you get all of the due diligence, when you get all the documents, and I'm like, I'm not going to waste my time. This is something that you should know. We looked once, it was a Pollo Tropical out parcel of a property. And it was once we got.
You weren't allowed to have pizza, burgers, bakery,
coffee.
So I'm like, financial institutions. So I thought, well,
we can have chicken and what else?
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. You're very limited. So that goes two ways. As leasing brokers, and when you're doing these deals, you don't realize sometimes the impact it has, whether you're on the leasing side and now you can't lease to somebody else, but even on the side of selling properties, out parcels, which out parcels have become so, there used to not be out parcels. And now they're building everywhere in a parking lot that they can find a piece. They're building out parcels, but many of these are restricted from the leases in the property in the back because of all of these exclusives that you gave a really small tenant, So it's something important that people need to pay attention to because it kills it kills a deal. It kills a sale, not even a lease that you're like, it kills the sale for them.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot that can come up in due diligence. Obviously, environmental issues can come up, right? Construction costs or impact fees, like a deal that I just had to drop recently.
Mm-hmm.
You think it's one thing and you hear it's one thing. But when you dig deep, and thank goodness, there are people that don't do due diligence.
Yeah.
But we do. We do our due diligence.
Even one of the deals that we passed on, it was because they had waived doing environmentals, this, that, and I'm like, just like, seriously? I was like, I don't need the property that bad to waive everything.
Yeah.
But you need to do your due diligence and know what you're looking at and what you're looking for.
So is it still good to be investors with all of these problems?
Yes.
Yes.
Why is that?
Why do you? Well, there is opportunity. It just goes to finding the right deals. But there is a lot of opportunity. We rather invest in real estate. Like my dad used to always say, he likes to see his money, basically touch his money. He likes to know where his money is versus other sorts of investments. Somebody actually recently posted this online. I saw, I don't know if it was on Twitter, on social media. Somebody's like, one of the good things about real estate at the same time is if you need money, you can just sell it and exactly, you have your value available to you. So despite there being challenges, the benefits definitely outweigh it. So I want to tell people, continue investing, continue looking for deals, whether you're buying it on your own, whether you're investing, a portion of your money with somebody else that you trust in a deal that you believe in, continue investing. And it doesn't only have to, what we do is retail. I know you specialize in retail, but our friend Natasha does multifamily. There's so many opportunities. There's opportunities in industrial, hospitality. There's just so many opportunities.
We're going to learn about all those asset classes at the summit, right?
Which everyone needs to go to.
Yes. So do you ever see yourselves ever investing outside of retail?
For now,
no.
Retail is what we like.
Yeah. That's what we've been focusing on for now.
And we talked a little bit before, Katrina. So it's been difficult to find deals. So you are looking at alternative ways to invest your money. And I know we talked about a couple different ways. earlier today. So why don't you share that with the audience for those of us that are having a hard time finding deals? What should we do? Should the money just be in a savings account? What are some of the things you guys have done?
So we try and work with mortgage brokers to bring us opportunities. And so we'll underwrite deals that are basically, residential investment properties that are multifamily. We have several like that, and also commercial ones. And they've been retail properties, industrial properties. And so we've been working on that as well. Yeah. So it's been usually for 12 months to 18 or 24 months. And it's in order to get, before they secure long-term financing for that deal, they would come to a mortgage broker who then would find us, and we would be, taking over that,
at high, they're at high interest rates, but in the meantime, it's, we're getting that return. That's not our ultimate goal, but in the meantime, money's sitting in the bank.
Yeah.
You're not earning anything until recently that you need to start calling all your banks, and the money you do have in the banks, they need to start paying you interest.
Yes.
And we've also, in the meantime, we've bought a ton of treasury bills because we're getting high returns, and it's very short term. So your money's not locked into, for 2 years that you can't use it. You can do it every month, expiring every 3 months. And that way you're getting a return right now. But if I next month find the deal I want, it expires and I don't have to renew the treasury bill.
I need to call my banks. I need to call my banks and get them to up my interest. I learned that from you guys. I'm doing that tomorrow.
All of them. Need to call it. And when they say no, there's a lot of banks that are paying for it. So, and again, these are things in the meantime. So your money is not making zero. Your money just sitting in the bank. You're not making any money on it. So at least if you can get a 5% return or above 5 from interest that the bank pays you, or treasury bills, or if you have some, depending how much money you have, that you can lend that and get 15% return from a mortgage broker, doing deals like that.
Yeah.
We've done some of that.
All right. Well, I try to keep this capped to 7:45 so everyone can go either, go watch Netflix or go have dinner. I know you guys are going to go have dinner. Last piece of advice for beginners, people that are looking to, they want to start investing, but they don't know where to start. What would your advice be?
Network. Mm-hmm. Network, and let people know that you want to start investing. Let people know what it is that you're looking for in, what type of investments you're looking for. And one thing, the other day I saw a deal. I just got an email blast about it. It was multifamily. That's not something that I focused on, but I know someone who focuses on multifamily in Hispanic neighborhoods. What did I do? I forwarded the email to her. She looked at the deal. It's not for her, but I remembered that this is what her focus is. I know that because, it's top of mind because she has a very niche focus.
And because she said it.
And she said it.
You have to tell people what it is that you're looking for, either in terms of even if you want to invest with somebody, what type of partners are you looking for? How much you want to invest in a deal so people keep you top of mind when they know, somebody's looking for 20,000 versus people who are looking for 200,000 from somebody. So I think that is very important, but networking is one thing we really try to do very often. We used to not, but we've gotten so much value of it. We've gained so many good friends in the industry because of it. Yeah. And it's also do the networking you like. One of the things, and Beth knows this, we have a real estate CRE supper club. Why did it start? We love going out to restaurants, trying new places, and Beth encouraged us to start it, and we did. And now we organize these dinners at very nice restaurants with people in the industry, and it's networking, but the way we like it, or just finding, we have a group that we get together with usually quarterly, and it's women who are in family businesses. So it's very niche, but this group, we understand each other. We face a lot of the similar problems. We've had also this like transfer from, you know, our parents to us. So finding the group that works for you and the way you want to do it. And if you're new in the business, find a group of people either that are your same age or have been in the business the same amount of years as you, are in your market. And it doesn't even have to be necessarily in your market, because even though you're in different markets, you still have similar experiences. So highly recommend networking and just find it, do it a way it works for you. If going to a conference of 200 people is not the way you feel comfortable networking, or you don't find as much value of it, do it on a smaller scale. But getting out there, talking to people, you just need to do it.
Love that. Love that. Networking in smaller groups. I love that. All right, ladies, friends, my dear ladies, I'm so happy that you guys got to do this.
Thank
you shared your journey and your wisdom and your experiences. You're so young. So I know a lot of people will learn from this, and I really appreciate your time and that you postponed dinner so that you could be here and share your stories. And everyone that's coming to the summit will get to see you.
Yes, we will be there. We're so excited for it.
Awesome. Love you. Mwah.
Thank you. Bye.